Weird experience in Canyonlands at night. This happened only a week ago. My girlfriend and I were visiting the Arches and Canyonlands area for the weekend, and ended up heading out pretty late from Moab to get to Canyonlands, about 45 minutes to an hour's drive. A few years previous, I'd gone there myself and stayed until the moon rose, because that meant people were leaving, and as a field recordist, that meant a quiet environment to record in. That night in 2020, the moon was bright and there were a few night photographers there I ended up hanging out with, and it was generally a surreal experience and I felt completely safe, hoping to have a similar time again with my girlfriend along for the ride, and forgetting the fact that maybe the clouds would largely block the moonlight that night. I drove us up. It was pretty dark before we even made it 15 minutes along the drive there. Having been there, more specifically Mesa Arch, twice before, and this being a borderline spiritual place for me, I didn't even think about danger or anything of the sort. Despite that, I had a sixth sense type of gut feeling pretty early on that we shouldn't head up there that night. Not wanting to freak myself out, or my girlfriend, I didn't say anything or think much of it, and chalked it up to just being nervous because it was dark. There was a certain vibe along the roads leading up, and we noticed there were people leaving the park but no one coming in ahead of or behind us. The instinct to not continue hit me subtly a few more times, and I kept pushing it away like an idiot. I've been very familiar with these instincts over the past years, and they've served me well, as far as I can tell. I think I genuinely thought I was just scared because it was dark. We ended up at the Mesa Arch parking lot, where 2 cars were parked up and heading out. When they left, it was almost completely dark with only the faintest glow of moon through the clouds, and not a person around anywhere near us. Canyonlands is pretty remote. We get our backpacks on, grab a couple of things, and my girlfriend makes sure I've got my CCW. She doesn't usually care much, so this struck me as indication she was maybe too concerned. We start heading up. It's a pretty short trail, maybe a quarter mile. All we wanted to do was get to this little bowl-like area, the main destination, and hang out and record some sounds. The area is pretty open, with trees both live and dead scattered around, bushes and small cacti, and rocky slopes that can be climbed in a few seconds. It's a pretty dope scene in daytime. I've never felt uneasy here previously. We'd been doing a bit of a travel vlog so far, so I continued doing that. I genuinely get goosebumps and chills every single time I think about this part. It was the weirdest feeling I've never felt. I felt instinctual. I should get out of here. I'm being watched, etc. Type of feelings before, and have several stories to tell from those. But I've never felt what I felt while vlogging. This might not seem relevant, but for context, the field recording I do is largely of gathering wood and rock sounds. Canyonlands has Navajo sandstone and juniper wood, both of which sound wonderful when tumbled and rolled around. I think of a field recording as an art, yes, but also as a way to appreciate a land in a closer way, at least for me, than just taking pictures of it. I feel like I'm capturing the essence of a location in a very respectful way. As I'm vlogging, I felt something I can only describe as a need to show that I was there peacefully and with a respectful intent. I didn't hear anything or see anything, just feeling on edge, being in near complete darkness. We could barely see our own feet on the easy, open trail. We'd kept our lamps off to let our eyes adjust to the glow, but I turned mine on to read a plaque. My girlfriend mentioned I should probably turn it off so I don't create shadows and freak us out. So I turned it back off. I also felt like I was spotlighting myself by having it on, and I was about to turn it off before she said that. We continued, and the uneasiness only grew. This lasted until we both reached the same exact spot on the trail and stopped at the same time, in silence. "I think we should go back," my girlfriend said, and I agreed. Never have I felt a stronger feeling of being unwelcome in a place. It felt like we hit a barrier. Not only did I feel unwelcome, it was more particularly the feeling of intruding on a congregation, meeting or gathering that we were not invited to. I don't know how to describe this feeling at all besides that. And it was not a conscious thought. It was just there, as these kinds of instincts tend to be. At that point, I realized I'd been ignoring these feelings long enough, and it was most certainly time to go. I have no idea what was going on in that little bowl we were about to reach, but I didn't want to find out. We made our way quickly back to the car. As soon as we got back, we heard a large pack of coyotes quite nearby, but in the opposite direction we'd be heading on the trail. If we'd continued on that trail, it was not coyotes we'd run into. Still, this felt like an additional clue to leave. And my girlfriend said, "That's our cue." I badly wanted to record their yips, but common sense took over, and we got the hell out of there. The road, completely devoid of any signs of other people, was particularly eerie. Driving back wasn't just trying to get back to our campsite in Moab. It felt like we were escaping, like when you turn off the lights and run up the stairs. Now relatively safe in our car, we discussed what had just happened. Every single unspoken, strong gut feeling I had had, my girlfriend had felt the exact same things at the same times. Both felt the need to show someone's, that we meant no harm by vlogging and being chill outwardly. Both felt multiple times on the drive there and on the trail that we shouldn't go. Both felt at the same times that we were like actors on a stage being watched by a multitude of something. Both felt unwelcome, like we were crashing a party. Both felt that we needed to go at the same exact point on the trail. None of these were spoken aloud to each other at any point until we were back on the road. As we drove, the moon became visible for a bit. I'm not familiar with moon stuff, but it had been a full moon a few days before, and that night it was large. Not full, though, and red. This was because of the red sand in the air from the windy day we'd had, I think. But my girlfriend said that also meant bad juju. Looking into the history of the region, and even stories of strange happenings at Mesa Arch, I'm sure we avoided something strange and or dangerous. I wanted to share this story here. Sometimes the places you love can still get spooky things going on when you're there at the wrong time. I've been getting weird texts. I've been getting a lot of random text lately. I think most of us do. Some telemarketer or political campaign plugs in our numbers to some auto-mailer app and inundates us with spam. Around election season, my phone is bombarded with texts telling me to donate to various politicians. I'm used to it. These texts, though, these were different. They started out innocent enough. The first one was sent a few weeks ago and said, "Hey Karen, it's Bill from the party." My name isn't Karen and I didn't know a Bill, so I figured it was either a wrong number or, more likely, spam. I've gotten texts like that before and assumed it was some sort of weird phishing scheme or something, so I ignored it, figuring it wasn't worth the effort to block. I wonder how different things would be if I did block that number. Anyway, I went about my life and completely forgot about the text until a couple of days later. "Hey Karen, it's Bill. We shared that case." Same number, same guy. I realized that this wasn't a spam number, but instead a real guy who was given my number at a party, most likely from someone who wasn't super comfortable giving him her number. Feeling a bit bad for the guy, I decided to put him out of his misery. "Hey, sorry, this isn't Karen. Think you got the wrong number." A minute, and then, "Stop joking. I know it's you." "No joke, man. Sorry." And that was that. For a bit, at least. A few hours later, while I was making dinner, my phone goes off.
"Karen, you fucking whore, don't you fucking lie to me."
Well, someone wasn't taking the truth very well.
"Dude, this isn't Karen. Leave me alone."
"You bitch, don't fucking lie to me."
"Okay, I'm going to block you now."
And with that, I blocked him. I continued going about my daily life, the experience just a weird story at this point. I told a few friends and we all agreed that Karen was probably justified in not giving Bill her number. Other than that, I didn't think much of it. Then, a few days later, I blocked Bill. I got a text from a new number.
"That was just rude, Karen."
Okay, now this was just getting creepy. Do I respond? I thought about it and decided not to. Don't give this guy more attention. I blocked his new number and figured that would be the end of it. A few minutes later, I got a new text from a new number.
"I know you're there, Karen."
What the fuck? Did this guy buy more than one phone just to text me? What is wrong with this weirdo? Starting to feel a bit creeped out, I blocked the other number too. Suddenly, my phone was blowing up with a bunch of texts from a bunch of different numbers.
"Karen, don't you hide from me, Karen. You bitch. I'm gonna find you. You can't hide forever."
Just dozens and dozens of texts like that, coming in too quickly for me to block them all. What the fuck is going on? How the fuck is he doing this? Why the fuck is he doing this? As I'm reeling from the texts, my phone rings. I don't recognize the number. It could very well be a spam call, calling me about my car's extended warranty or something. I know deep down it isn't, though. A part of me wanted to pick up the phone, scream at this guy to leave me alone, that I'm not this Karen and that he's a fucking nutjob. But, for some reason, I couldn't bring myself to pick up the phone. Some part of my brain was just screaming at me not to, paralyzing me with indecision. Soon enough, the phone stopped ringing. Whoever it was left a voicemail. Taking a deep breath, I played it. For the first few seconds, it was just heavy breathing. Then,
"Karen, I miss the way you tasted at the party, Karen.
And there it ended. I wasn't quite sure how to respond. How do you respond to something like that? Call him back? Call the police? Call the local asylum and ask if they're missing a guy named Bill? No, I decided not to do any of those things. Instead, I changed my phone number. It was a pain in the ass, but hopefully he wouldn't be able to figure it out. He'd just keep texting the old number and assume I was ignoring him. Everyone wins. For a while, it looked like it worked. I didn't hear anything from Bill. The only random texts I got were just those asking me to donate to some politician. After what happened, it was almost a relief to get those. I started to let myself forget about Bill and move on with my life. Until today, I got a text from a random number.
Found you, Karen.
Attached was a picture of me, taken through my window. Creeper asked to hold my hand. This was about 10 years ago. I was about 23, 24, and I lived in Norfolk on Granby Street right across from a huge park and the zoo. You could hear the animals from the porch. It was exciting. I have always enjoyed going for a walk or jog at dusk or later at night when all was quiet. Probably a stupid thing to do in a city. This day it was a late-night run along the river, and I didn't have my dog with me as she had already cuddled with my roommate for the night. I was heading back home when a tall, dark shadow startled me by stepping out from between two houses. I tried to sidestep him, and he tried to make conversation. As I got around him, he grabbed my hand and told me,
"It's okay. I just want to hold your hand."
Nervous, my mind racing on how to get out of this, I nodded and said,
"Oh, okay."
And we walked towards the direction I was heading. We approached a semi-brightly lit building, outside spotlights, maybe a school. I knew of a path through the edges and pulled my hand out of his and said,
"Well, I got to go this way."
He nodded his head, and I went around the corner of the building before he could say anything and took off through the hedges like a bat out of hell. I never stopped running until I got to the 7-Eleven near my house and had my roommate get up and walk me the half-block home in case the guy had managed to follow me. This only stopped my late-night adventures for a week or so, because I'm stupid, but my pup never missed another one. I never saw that guy again. Thank goodness. Creepy stares at my childhood home and other strange occurrences. This took place in the late 90s, early 2000s. So we had internet, but it was slow dial-up, and I don't remember Google really being a thing yet. When I was around 9 or 10 years old, my mom got remarried and we moved into a bigger house to accommodate our family of 5. Most of the houses in the neighborhood were built in the 70s/80s. The house was okay overall. 3-bedroom, 2-bath, ranch style with a finished basement. One weird thing about the house was the feeling I got on the staircase that led downstairs. It's hard to explain, but I got the worst feeling on that staircase every single time I ever had to use it. Coming and going, like you were going to be pushed or pulled down the stairs. It was a finished downstairs area with a built-in bar and lots of living space, so it's not like it was a creepy basement. It was completely irrational, but I hated that staircase. We later found out that the man who lived there previously had died in the house. I'm not sure his manner of death, but his widow didn't bother to pack up his man cave downstairs, and we were left with a lot of his belongings. I never talked to my family about the weird feeling on the staircase and chalked it up to being my imagination. When we were moving out of the house, I asked every member of my family, separately, if they had ever had any weird experiences in the house. Every single person, without prompting, said they felt uneasy on the stairs, like they were going to be snuck up on or grabbed. There was a strange experience that my stepdad at the time told me about. One weekend, him and my mom were laying in bed in the morning. It was a weekend that his kids were with their grandparents and I was at my dad's, so they had the house to themselves. My mom got up to make coffee and her husband was sleepily laying in bed. He was facing away from the doorway with his eyes closed when he heard my mom walk back into the room and plop down on the bed. The floors were hardwood, so it was easy to hear. He started to talk to her about their plans for the day. When she didn't answer, he rolled over to see my mom was not in the room, but there was an imprint of someone sitting at the foot of the bed. He got freaked out and left the house for the day. We would all often hear footsteps and doors would open or close on their own. There were times where things would go missing, only to be found in the middle of a room previously searched. Lots of weird feelings and little things. I would get nightmares and struggle with insomnia. Not sure if it was related, but it only ever happened in that house. One time the old industrial whole house attic fan that hadn't worked in years came on in the middle of watching a paranormal movie, blowing papers everywhere and being loud AF, scaring everyone until we figured out what was happening. Nothing super crazy, but still, the weird gut feeling you would get in that house was insane.